Hello there, everyone. It's Linda here, founder of Just For Tummies. Thank you for joining me and my guest this evening. I'm going to be introducing my two guests in a couple of minutes, but I just wanted to welcome you to this live event this evening where we're going to be talking about colon hydrotherapy. My two guests and I, all three of us are very experienced colon hydrotherapists. We have between us over 40 years experience in carrying out tens of thousands of colon hydrotherapy treatments. Now, tonight, this live is going to be streaming to the Just For Tummies Facebook page. It's also going to be streaming to the Tummy Talk Facebook group and to the Just For Tummies YouTube channel. There is a free download that you can request in comments to be sent to you via Messenger, and that is a PDF. It's called The Truth About Colon Hydrotherapy. Now, those of you who are watching this live in the Tummy Talk group and on YouTube, you need to pop into Messenger, Facebook Messenger, and just type in the word live. That's the keyword live, L-I-V-E, and we will you will automatically receive the PDF, The Truth About Colon Hydrotherapy. So welcome everyone. The reason I wanted to do a live about colon hydrotherapy, it's a treatment, a discipline I'm very passionate about. I trained in colon hydrotherapy, modern colon hydrotherapy, many years ago, and it completely changed my life, and it's changed the lives of many people who have been to see me and had treatment with me. And without colon hydrotherapy and all the wonderful clients that walk through my clinic door, I would not have been able to develop my Just For Tummies supplement brand. So my two guests this evening are Gillian Edwards and Katherine Brooke-MacKenzie, two women that I've known a considerable number of years. Jill and I, we both sat on the committee of the Association of Registered Colon Hydrotherapists for many years, and we had lots of laughs. And we might tell you a few of the things that we got up to, or maybe not. And Katherine Brooke-MacKenzie, who again is a very experienced colon hydrotherapist and has recently written a book that she's launched on Amazon, all about how to improve your poo. Right, so without further ado, I am going to bring Jill and Katherine onto the live. Hi, girls.
Hi, Linda.
It's good to see you both again. So I just want to, when it comes to colon hydrotherapy, you two know that there are so many myths, misunderstandings and untruths about this fantastic therapy of ours. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this live, to debunk some of those myths. So I think the best thing to do with this live, and we've only got about 50 minutes, is just to go through a little bit about the history of colon hydrotherapy, what colon hydrotherapy is and what it isn't. So like, for example, the difference between a colonic and an enema, and then the equipment that's used, the actual procedure, some of the conditions that are very successfully treated using colon hydrotherapy, in particular irritable bowel syndrome, painful bloating and constipation. Some of the contraindications, of course, because colon hydrotherapy is not suitable for everyone. And then maybe one or two stories of what happened in our clinics with certain clients who will remain anonymous. So I'm just going to click on, if you see me kind of looking away from the screen, everyone, it means that I'm just checking comments and any questions that we're getting. So, okay, we've got quite a few already. Right, so first of all then, let's have a look. I'll go to the top of my questions. And everyone that's watching, you know, please ask questions. The reason I wanted to do this live was to help you learn more about colon hydrotherapy. So ask as many questions as you like. Right, so there we go. is colon hydrotherapy just a load of you know what? Well, yes, we tend to see a lot of that coming down the tubing, don't we? But it's much more than that. So let's look at a brief history and an intro into the gastrointestinal tract or the alimentary canal. And Jill, I don't know if you want to start us off.
Yes, well, it's nice to see everybody. I think the thing I always say about the brief history is one day somebody decided to go and put a reed up their bottom in the middle of a river, apparently, according to the pyramids where they've got drawings of them, put some water into their bottom and then expel it. And they must have felt better and told their friends about it, and it's been going on ever since. In modern times, so we believe that there was a lot of colon hydrotherapy performed in doctors' surgeries in the early part of the 20th century. I think with the wars that came along, First and Second World Wars, things fell out of favour and got forgotten about, it got picked up again. I think Mae West, if my memory serves me well, she was quite into colon hydrotherapy, and then as time went on, Princess Diana, she used to do a lot of it, and she brought it back to the fore. A lot of people thought she was a bit bonkers, but from then on, I think it really took off and people started to look at it a lot more. And I think that's where we really have what I would call the modern world of colon hydrotherapy.
And it's still here, isn't it, Jill? Colon hydrotherapy, you know,
absolutely.
Hundreds of thousands of treatments are carried out every year. It's still here. It's not going away anytime soon. And that's because it works. Absolutely.
I mean, research is great. But as we've always said, who's going to pay for us to have research into water? Nobody really, because there's no money in it. But, you know, anecdotal evidence is just as important, and people are coming to us. I remember a long time ago, Linda and I were travelling somewhere together, and we worked out roughly how many treatments we thought people were doing with all the colon hydrotherapists in the country, and we frightened ourselves with the numbers. You know, we've been in business a long time, and people can't get enough of it. I can't believe that after all these years, there's so many people still in trouble and still wanting colon hydrotherapy. If it wasn't popular, we wouldn't be doing it.
Exactly. And I think, you know, my thoughts, Jill, that in my opinion, there should be a colon hydrotherapist, not in every GP surgery in the country, but certainly at least one in a GP surgery in every town and city. And people, you know, who suffer with constipation and IBS should be triaged accordingly, because they may only just need a colon hydrotherapy treatment, you know, to sort them out. So thanks for that, Jill. Katherine, do you just want to run through a little bit of the anatomy of the gastrointestinal tract?
I can do that, Linda. Yes, I did slightly better at biology than I did history, so I'm glad Jill got the history question. Yeah, well, like you said earlier, I always think of it as being, although I mean obviously it's a very complex process, but I tend to think of it as being like a hose pipe. So it's literally one pipe that goes from our mouth all the way through to our bottoms, and that pipe changes in circumference and has different functions all the way through it. But it isn't, in a sense, it isn't any more complicated than that, is it? We don't really need to know all the terms that go with it. Obviously, we do because of what we do, but you know, the layperson doesn't. And I think it's an important thing to say. We've all heard the adage that you are what you eat, but it's a really important thing to say that that's not actually 100% true, and it is that you are what you absorb. So just because you've swallowed something into your mouth and it's gone into the center of your host pipe, it doesn't actually become you until it's absorbed through the lining of the small intestine or the colon, which are the more southerly parts of the host pipe, which is what we deal with, really, isn't it? The last section.
Yes, and of course the colon hydrotherapy tubing, the speculum and the tubing that's attached to it, is just an extension of that gastrointestinal tract, isn't it? That's the way I see it. That's the way I explain it to people anyway.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And it reflects the behavior of it, doesn't it, as you're working with a client?
Yes, it's great to be able to see the, you know, we call it the peristalsis, the contraction and relaxation of that tubing. And that, of course, is the contraction and relaxation of the bowel. So What exactly is a modern colon hydrotherapy treatment then? Well, the way I describe it is, it's simple, isn't it? It's just the introduction of warm filtered water into the bowel via a speculum. And I'm going to try and bring up on the screen in a moment. And I don't know if one of you ladies will just want to take over talking and explain a little bit more. I want to try and bring up on the screen, fingers crossed, what a disposable colon hydrotherapy kit looks like, because of course all the equipment, it's single use and it's disposable, isn't it? So if one of you ladies can just take over while I try and find this image.
So I think one of the things I always say to my clients is that we're using warm, purified, filtered water. One of the primary functions of colon is to absorb water. And so it's a very hydrative treatment. And all we're really doing is stimulating your bowel to want to empty itself. We're not sucking water out. We're not pumping water in at high pressure. We're not trying to get water to come out through your eyeballs. There's lots and lots of myths about it, but we're essentially mimicking what normally happens, which is when you want to go to the toilet, you get a feeling in your tummy or in your abdomen, I want to go to the toilet. If hopefully you go to the toilet, you empty your bowel, job done. And we're mimicking that, but we're doing it repeatedly. And that does several things. It makes the muscle work, so it's a good muscular exercise for your bowel. It picks up the nerve receptors, which tell your bowel and your brain that my bowel's full, I want to empty it. And we're doing that repeatedly, and that can often, in my experience, stimulate the bowel to remember what it's supposed to do. For people who are constipated, where they've had problems and that message seems to have got lost along the way, it can really sort of remind it what's going on.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't find that image, and I'm not going to risk fiddling about with images and lose this live, because this is more important than showing an image. Some of the critics of colon hydrotherapy, I would love to know how they or their advice for someone who is chronically constipated, where they've tried all the drugs from the GP, the stool softeners, the motility drugs, they've tried everything else and nothing's worked for them, and they're just getting more and more impacted. What would their advice be to these people? Because when the bowel gets as impacted as that, the only thing that's going to shift it really is a colon hydrotherapy treatment, because the water, as it's introduced into the bowel, and it's introduced very gently, isn't it, girls? Very gentle, under very low pressure. We're not pumping the water in. As the water is introduced very gently, it acts as a solvent, so it begins to soften that hardened stool, and then eventually it just comes away down the outlet tubing.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, I expect we'd all had the experience when a person's really constipated when they've come to see us, and we just start that stimulation process off in a sense, and then get them onto the toilet, so they're passing some of the stool more comfortably for them, or it gives them more confidence if they're sitting on the loo, and gravity's working in their favor. And that just has been my experience. I expect you ladies will concur that once you create a little bit of space inside that person, the bowel starts to move. It's like it's got room to do what it's meant to do, where previously it was just so rammed to the hilt it couldn't actually function or move anyway.
Well, yes, kind of paralyzed in a way, because it's so full of feces. And yes, very often not very often, but occasionally when I was carrying out a colonic, and it's also, it's very important, isn't it, when we are carrying out a colonic as the therapist, that we are always checking our client. We're looking at the face, and I always look at body language as well. I was always asking them, are you comfortable? Do you feel okay? Have you got any questions? Because sometimes if all of a sudden the bowel begins to contract and it's pushing all that waste down, then it can be a little too much for the speculum and the outlet pipe to cope with. So it's best to just whip the speculum out, let them go and empty on the toilet for a few minutes, and then carry on with the colonic.
Yeah. One of the analogies I use is if when people get constipated, it doesn't take long to get to feel really awful. And often people will say, how long can this stuff have been there? It doesn't really matter. If you've been constipated for 2 or 3 days, most people feel really miserable. And it's a bit then, because your colon's taking fluid out of your bowel, all that stool gets really hard and dry. It's difficult to pass. And then you end up with congestion. So it's a bit like having a 3-lane motorway going down to 1 lane, or actually just stopping. And what seems to happen is if we can move the congestion, it just allows the whole thing to shift again, and the whole motorway can restart.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say to everyone, thank you for joining us, and I hope you're enjoying our little talk all about colon hydrotherapy. If you message us in comments asking for our free download, The Truth About Colon Hydrotherapy, we'll send it to you in Messenger. If you're watching in the Tummy Talk group and on Facebook, then just send us a message in Facebook Messenger and just type in live. That's the trigger word, and the bot will send you the PDF automatically as well. And I also want to tell people that Just for Tummies are having a giveaway competition this month, and it's a chance for you and a friend to win a colon hydrotherapy with any colon hydrotherapist of your choice, wherever they are in the country. Just for Tummies will pay the fees for you and a friend to experience a colon hydrotherapy treatment for yourself. So after this live, if you go onto the Just for Tummies Facebook page, you will see the post on there and all details of how to enter. So good luck with that. Right, so what happens during treatment? So when someone wanted to come to see me for a colonic, I would always take quite a lengthy health questionnaire. I want to know what medications they're taking, if they've had any operations, any surgery. I want to know certainly if they may have any contraindications. I'm just trying to think now, because obviously I'm no longer practicing colon hydrotherapy, haven't done for several months now, so I'm just trying to think what else I used to ask on the health questionnaire. But I mean, one of the most important things is, do you have any contraindications? And because if so, we can't treat you, and we'll come to contraindications a little bit later. And then I would explain the procedure to them. I would ask them to go into the toilet and just take off their bottom things and wrap a blanket or a towel around them, come out of the toilet, lie face up on the couch, and then I would have a good, palpate around the tummy and the bowel in particular. Then I would get them onto their left side and do a quick digital exam just to check for any obstructions, and then I would insert the speculum, attach the inlet tubing that takes in the warm filtered water and the outlet tubing that takes the wastewater, and that's all coupled with the waste system, of course, so there's no odor, there's no mess. It's all very clean, and it's all very, and any colon hydrotherapist will put, if you've never had a colonic before, most colon hydrotherapists, including myself, we've had the treatment. I went for colon hydrotherapy treatment many years ago because I suffered with constipation, and I remember being very nervous at the time. But this colon hydrotherapist had been recommended to me, and I trusted the person who'd recommended her, and it was one of those light bulb moments that you get in life. It helped me. I felt so much better, and that's when I decided to train in colon hydrotherapy. So Jill, I don't know if you just want to explain how long an average colon hydrotherapy treatment takes, how much water is used, and why do we alter the temperature of the water?
Yeah. Meantime, because I know you can't get your images up, so I've sent my helper off to go and get us a speculum pack.
Thanks, Graham.
So here's the speculum pack. I don't know if you can see that okay.
Yes,
so they come in sealed packets. We've got an inlet tube and an outlet tube. I'm going to open this one so you can see what it looks like. So this is the speculum. Don't be scared of it. It looks huge, but it isn't. So this is the bit that goes into your bottom. It's smaller than what you would normally pass out. And we put an inlet tube on the top of here and the outlet tube on the end. And take the middle out. In the midst of all that, this is all lubricated. So it goes about this far into your bottom. It's about an inch, inch and a quarter. It doesn't hurt. That's the most important thing. Colonics don't hurt.
And we put some lubricant. We put some lubricant in there first.
We do,
don't we, Jill, before we insert the speculum.
We do, yes. It's all very gentle. Colonics is a gentle treatment. It's people come in thinking it's going to hurt, and it doesn't. If it hurts, we wouldn't be doing your treatment. So an average treatment.
Sorry, Jill, can I just interrupt? I used to get people, in fact, even now, today, I've had an email from a lady who confused a colon hydrotherapy treatment with a colonoscopy. It's nothing like a colonoscopy, is it? A colonoscopy
No, it isn't.
is where a camera, the camera goes into your back passage, and the camera goes, the scope goes all the way around, and they inflate your bowel with air before they put the camera in as well, and it can sometimes be a little bit uncomfortable. The colon hydrotherapy is nothing like that. Sorry, Jill, carry on.
No, that's true. It's a good point to raise, because people do think that, and having had a colonoscopy in the past, it's nothing like it. This is a warm, gentle treatment. Remember, we're only stimulating the bowel to empty itself, and usually for most people, that's quite a pleasing experience. So an average treatment takes about 40-45 minutes. So we, as Linda said, we do the consultation form first, get your health questionnaire, decide we're safe to treat, and then we go through the process of the treatment. So we start you off on your side, insert the scope, turn you back onto your back. Sometimes we might treat you on your side for a little bit, we might turn you straight onto your back, it just depends. And then we're literally letting warm water through your colon, in and out. If you've got a glass of water and you fill it up, when the water gets to the top, it runs away. So there's a through flow of water, a bit like having a shower. And then all we do is stop the water from coming out to a point where we know that your bowel is full, and that creates a little bit of pressure. And your bowel responds by recognizing it's full and says, I want to empty, and it wants to contract. So we're stimulating this response of, we fill your bowel empties itself. And that's the gentle thing that we do over and over. The amount of water we use, I must confess, I've never actually measured it.
Well, approximately.
Approximately, what, about 50 litres? 45, yes. 50 litres. And remember, it's not all going in at the same time. This is a constant flow of water, because people do think that this water is going in, and it's not. The water will go in and it will just find its own way back out again. And we just do these gentle fill and empty. It's a nice, gentle treatment.
So we're just trying to stimulate that contraction, relaxation of the bowel, aren't we? And I know it also depends what type of bowel you're working on, because I know I had clients who had long lazy bowels, and it would take me a good 45-50 minutes to get the bowel to empty, and I had to use more than 50 litres of water. But then on the other hand, I would sometimes have someone in who had quite a fast bowel, a short fast bowel, and I could empty them in literally 20 minutes using about 40-ish litres of water. So it just depends, but on average about 50-ish, 60-ish litres of water.
So as regards the temperature of the water, now muscles, any muscle will relax when it's warm, and all muscles will contract when they're cold. So if we're cold, we get tight and tense, and when we warm up, we relax. And it's the same internally. Your whole digestive tract is a tubular muscle. And so we can influence what happens with your bowel by either warming or cooling the water just by a couple of degrees. So it doesn't need to be dramatic. Sometimes we might cool it a little bit longer, and for a bit cooler. Sometimes we might warm it up a bit. So depending on what's going on with someone's bowel will depend on what we do with the water, whether we want to warm it up a bit or cool it down, or actually just do a bit of both.
Yeah, so for example, Jill, if you've got someone in that suffers with IBS-C, where constipation is the predominant symptom, or someone that suffers with constipation, should I say, then you might want to, you would always start a colonic off with warm water anyway. You never start it off with cool water. But someone with a lazy constipated bowel, you might want to take the water temperature down a little bit, to stimulate that peristalsis even more. And then someone who's got IBS-D, or someone that's got a very sensitive bowel, you'd want to keep the water warm pretty much the whole of the time, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
So Katherine, thanks for that, Jill. So Katherine, do you want to explain the difference between a colonic and an enema? Because again, people can get a bit confused between the two.
Yeah, and they are, as we know, very, very, very different. One of the first things I'd say the difference would be about the volumes of water that you've just covered there, in an approximate way. So with an enema, bag or an enema bucket, you're usually using around about, well, perhaps 3/4 to 1 litre of water at a time, as opposed to the colonic, where we're using more like say somewhere between sort of 50, 60 or even 70 litres, depending on what the person, what's going on for the person on the couch. But the other important difference between the enema and the colonic is the enema can only really reach the lower part of the digestive tract. So, you know, the rectum is only going to clear, perhaps if you're lucky and you know how to position yourself appropriately when you're doing an enema, it's only likely to clear the lower parts of the descending colon. I think you can, like I say, when you're experienced with it, you can maneuver yourself by rolling around on the bathroom floor and sticking your feet up the wall and, you know, palpating your belly and massaging yourself so to coax things round a little bit. But generally the difference is that a colonic is like, I don't know, like 10 times the power of any enema. So it's not even a comparable thing, even though we can see that a person could get that confused. The other thing, of course, is that with an enema, you've only got one thing going. Well, I'm sorry, that's a bit confusing. With a colonic and an enema, you only have one thing going into your bottom. But with the colonic speculum, it's got an inlet and an outlet pipe. So the water is going in and coming out simultaneously. But with an enema, you're only introducing the water, and you have to wait until you get that feeling of fullness. Then you have to remove the enema nozzle, I don't know if that's the correct term, and then get yourself onto a toilet to empty out the water or the stool that you've just loosened off. So they're significantly different.
Okay, thanks for that. Someone's just asked a question, actually, and Jill, I think you're best to answer this because of your experience. Is a colonic the same as using the Peristine system?
Oh yes, that's my favourite subject. So,
can you just tell us briefly the differences between the two?
I will. Yeah. So Peristine is what they call a transanal irrigation system. It's more like an enema, but with Peristine, they use just a small catheter. It's similar to it's a bit bigger than this pencil, and it's got a little balloon. So they put that into your bottom. You blow the balloon up to seal it. Literally, you let water in and then you let it go again. I've been referring people for Peristine for many, many years. There are other transanal irrigation systems, but I'm very familiar with Peristine. And it can work really, really well for people who have got neurological problems, things like MS, people who've got nerve damage, people who are taking lots of opiate type drugs for, you know, all sorts of problems that they have. So sometimes colonics will help, you know, at sort of a one quick moment. But if people have got ongoing problems,
they need something in between.
And Peristine can be prescribed. It's made by Peristine, particularly. It's made by a company called Coloplast. I usually send people off to Coloplast to see if they can get it, and it does work really, really well. And so, like you say, I'm very familiar with it, and I recommend it a lot.
Am I right in thinking as well that they don't have to pay for the Peristine system?
No, you can get it prescribed. There's a lady I've been talking to recently, and she's struggling to get it prescribed by her health authority. We haven't given up on it, but yes, it can be prescribed. Doctors don't always know about it. You might need to educate them, and that's why I tend to send people direct to Peristine to ask about it, because then they can write to their GP. Okay. So I would always suggest that people do that.
Okay, that's great, thank you. So just to finish off regarding the actual procedure then, it can take anywhere, well, in my experience, from 20 minutes to 50 minutes to complete a colonic, depending on the type of bowel that I'm working on, and depending whether or not I decided to do a herbal implant or a probiotic implant or a coffee enema afterwards. And once we've completed the colonic treatment, then the person gets off the couch. Well, we take the speculum out first. The person gets off the couch, wraps the blanket around them, goes off to the toilet, and I used to say to them, look, there's no rush here. You sit there for as long as you need to. Use the squatty potty, you know, get your feet up a good 6 inches off the floor to relax that anorectal sphincters, you know, to allow, you know, the unimpeded flow, and stay there for as long as you like, and then get dressed, come out, and we'll have a chat. And that's it. And then I'd give them some advice, diet, lifestyle, maybe some supplement advice as well. I mean, you know that I'm passionate about probiotics, enzymes, charcoal, omega-3, milk thistle. But do one of you want to talk about herbal implants and probiotic implants and coffee enemas, and when might we use those during a colonic?
The only thing I can contribute there, because I've never done coffee enemas or probiotic implants. I don't know if Jill has any experience in that particular field, but is using some herbs sometimes. So because of a training course I did with Jill, actually. Yeah, it was about 5, I don't know, maybe more than that now. It was a long time ago, yeah. So again, if you get somebody that presents with a really tight bowel, or that they're an IBS sufferer, and they've got quite, you know, there's what we might call a spastic colon, so that it's very sort of knotted feeling, you know, and they're feeling lots of cramps and stuff. You might use some nice gentle herbs, things like chamomile or fennel, which are like antispasmodics. And what I do then is put them in a cafetiere to let them infuse, and then obviously get the temperature right, because you don't want to add a hot one. And then introduce that through an enema bucket into the colonic speculum. So yes. I've had experience, and I think people find that it's very soothing. It's very calming for the bowel, and it helps as a preparation, I think, for a more thorough treatment, to get them into that calm space where they can just relax into the treatment a little bit more, and then it tends to be more efficient and, of course, a lot more comfortable for them. Yes,
and again, it depends what bowel what type of bowel you're working on, whether you're using stimulant herbs or calming herbs. And again, probiotic implants. I know some of my clients used to like to have a probiotic implant after the colonic. So, you know, we'd complete the colonic, they'd go to the toilet and empty, then they'd come back on the couch and we'd do the probiotic implant, or we would do the coffee enema. Jill, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, just a little something. People often say, how do we put the herbs in? So I've just set this up quickly. So this is Speculum. So the water goes in through this one.
Yes.
This goes into your bottom and forms a seal, and then the waste comes out through there. So we've got this through flow of water that we talked about. When we come to do the enema herbs, we don't have to take it out. We can attach it to this bit here and just let them infuse. And again, the way I describe the herbs, they act a little bit like, if you imagine having cramp in your leg and you could immerse it into something and the cramp goes away, but this is the other way around. We put the herbs in and they have this topical effect. There's an element of absorption as well, but they have this effect of releasing tightness and then just allowing the bowel to go back to where it should be, because when your bowel should be, if you like, that big.
Yes.
When muscle tension, and this is only muscle tension, not disease, might be more like this, and the herbs literally release it back to there again, and it can be quite spectacularly good. And it's again, we only do nice things. It's a nice, relaxing thing to do.
They do nice things, and the same with the coffee enema. The coffee enema is always performed at the end of a colonic. When the colonic's finished, they've gone to the toilet, they've emptied, they come back on the couch, and we do a coffee enema. And the coffee, it's raw coffee, of course, and when that's introduced into the rectum via the speculum, the hemorrhoidal veins around the rectum take up the coffee and it's transported to the liver, and it causes the bile duct to contract and pushes bile out of the liver, and with it toxins, cholesterol. That's the theory behind coffee enemas anyway. Right, so
just a quick thing, Linda.
Oh, go on. Yeah, go on, Jill.
You mentioned about probiotic implants, which I used to do a lot more of them, but I think sometimes there's a good reason why I might want to do an implant, but nowadays, because probiotics are so good, taking a daily probiotic is to me far more beneficial long term.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I mean, I think you both know how I feel about probiotics. I mean, I think probiotics should be put in the water supply so everyone gets a daily top up of probiotics, and it would put me out of business. But, you know, I'm so passionate about probiotics because our poor guts are being assaulted every day from all manner of things, and it's affecting the balance of bacteria in our gut, and ultimately not just leading to digestive and gut disorders, but autoimmune disorders and mental health issues as well. Around 70% of the immune system is located in the gut, and around 90% of our happy hormone serotonin is produced in the gut. But I'm not going to go off on a tangent. Right. So what do we see coming down the colonic waste pipe? Marbles, Lego, Barbie shoe. Well, I've never seen anything like that coming down, and I've carried out tens of thousands of colonics. So, girls, have you seen anything? Oh, go on, Catherine. Yes.
Go on, Catherine.
No, nothing. The only thing I've seen, anything that I would describe as, say, inorganic, was, gosh, it was years and years ago, and it was a rubber band. Okay, it's about this long. It was a white rubber band, as in a loop like this. And it caught my eye, and as we know, because of what we're looking at, that when the stuff's moving down the pipe, it's going at quite a rate, isn't it? So you see something sometimes and go, oh crikey! And there was this. I thought, oh crikey, it's a big tapeworm.
Oh, are you sure it wasn't a worm?
No, I'm quite sure because I fished it out. I know, sorry, but I had to, and it was a rubber band, and the person who it came from had absolutely no idea how it had got there, and it was perfect. It hadn't been perished at all, which you think it would have done if it had gone through the stomach acid and all through the intestines. It was completely intact. So jury's out on that one if anybody's got any ideas.
That is amazing.
But that's the only thing I've ever seen.
So this person.
Go on, sorry.
Sorry, Jill, go on.
I was going to say I've only had two things. One was a piece of string with a knot in it, which I also thought was something thrilling. And the knot was important because I thought that was the head, but it wasn't. It was string. But this person had recently come out of hospital, so they must have had it there.
Is that what they had to eat in hospital then?
They must have done, string on the string diet. And the other one was actually last week. I had a little red circular thing come out, and we found out it was the label off the Pink Lady apples.
Oh yes. Oh, wow.
Pink Lady apples.
Okay, thank you for that. So just to remind everyone, and just to thank everyone for tuning in this evening and joining us, talking about the benefits of safety of modern colon hydrotherapy that myself, Jill and Katherine and all colon hydrotherapists are passionate about. Their craft, because it is a craft. And just to remind you that if you want the free PDF download, The Truth About Colon Hydrotherapy, just message us in Messenger and we'll send it to you. The bot will send it to you automatically. And also to remind you about the giveaway that we have on the Just For Tummies Facebook page this month. And it's a chance for you and a friend to win a colon hydrotherapy treatment with a colon hydrotherapist of your choosing, wherever that is in the country. So all details on the Just For Tummies Facebook page. And that competition, giveaway is on all this month, and we'll announce the winner on the 2nd of August. So, right. What can colon hydrotherapy help with? IBS, painful bloating, constipation. Well, yes, all three and much, much more. I think when I was in practice, a good 60% of my clients had irritable bowel syndrome, and the bloating, cramps, and the rest, constipation. But of course, people don't just have colon hydrotherapy because they suffer with IBS, bloating, and constipation. Maybe they've been suffering with headaches, or they've got a skin condition, or maybe they just want to cleanse. I know January is I think January is still the busiest month for colon hydrotherapists for obvious reasons. So, girls, do you want to add anything to that?
I find that people come for a reason that they believe, and they go away with so much more than they thought was possible. Do you know what I mean? That it's like they think it's going to just help, like say with a functional bowel problem like the ones you've listed there. But when they go away and they realise that there are subtle improvements, like I said, headaches and migraines seem to be eased, and menstrual problems are eased, and a general feeling, Katherine, of well-being, a general feeling of a lifting of the mood as well. Immediately after a colonic. It is like being unburdened. I mean, that happens on a physical level, but there's like that mental, emotional level as well, where people suddenly feel a sense of spaciousness. It's like, for me, it creates a bigger gap between a person's reaction and their ability to respond. Do you know what I mean? It's like, instead of being everything's kind of in their life is right in their face, there's a distance. And they're generally calmer, and of course that's because it stimulates that nervous system which calms us down.
Yes, yeah. And I just want to remind people that when you go to see a colon hydrotherapist, they're not just going to very effectively clear out your bowel and reduce your symptoms of, and when it comes to IBS, and I found this in my clinic, if someone came to my clinic and they were having a painful flare-up of IBS, just after one colonic, you could get them out of pain and discomfort. That happened, that happened quite a lot. So as Julie, thank you, Julie, for mentioning this. I cannot recommend a treatment enough. And I wish I had a £5 for everyone that had said to me, oh, I wish I'd had this treatment sooner. I wish I'd come to you years ago. I think we've all heard that, haven't we? Right, let's have a look at some more questions. Oh yes, I think we ought to cover some contraindications, girls, because as I said at the beginning, not everyone can have colon hydrotherapy. So we've got pregnancy, of course, and we can't treat children. Is it children under 16? Up to the age of 16, or is it 18? I can't remember. I'm a bit out of the loop now.
Generally speaking, we don't treat children unless they've got a written letter of recommendation, of request from a GP consultant. But generally speaking, we don't treat children under 16 to 18. We treat with parental consent and with obviously with the consent of the young person.
Of course,
which
yes.
We need to understand what's going on. So it's a bit active inflammatory bowel disease. So that's things like diverticulosis. Diverticulosis is a condition. Diverticulitis is when it's inflamed. Same as Crohn's and colitis. If it's in an inflammatory state, or it has been, we'd have to look at that carefully as to whether we can treat or not. Bowel cancer, no, we definitely don't.
Yes.
Severe hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids is a one that comes up a lot because lots of people, I think most people when they get to a certain age have got hemorrhoids. If they're really, really painful, even our little gentle tube, you're not really going to want that in your bottom. No. Sometimes people can have lots of them and it doesn't bother them. Sometimes they've got a tiny one and it really does. So that's another one we have to consider. Eating disorders is mentioned there. But again, in remission, you've got to look at why people are having the treatment. And one of the things I think is really important is expectations. So what people want from the treatment. If you want to come in and think that you're going to lose a stone, obviously, it doesn't work.
No. Although Jill, we were speaking before the live started, and I remember this lady came to me many years ago because she'd been suffering with constipation. She'd not had a proper bowel movement in over 2 weeks, and when she walked into the treatment room, I could see that she was terribly bloated, and she weighed herself before the colonic, and then and when I did the colonic, it was just non-stop releasing down the outlet tube, and when she weighed herself after the colonic, she'd lost 7 pounds in fecal matter.
And I've had people like that. Let me just demonstrate, because people can misunderstand what we're taking out. We're not moving fat. Fat's under here, under your skin. There's a fat layer. This is your gut, which is in the middle, and we're emptying the contents of that lower down.
Yes.
So we're only taking out what's in this tube, and that can be, as you've just mentioned, it can be really heavy. But we're not moving fat. But it can really help a lot of people who want to kickstart a new regime, stake in the ground from now on.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And the CKD there, if no one's sure about that, is chronic kidney disease. You can't have colon hydrotherapy if you've got chronic kidney disease, because you will absorb some water, and that can put pressure on your kidneys. Constipation, for me, someone who's chronically constipated, there's no other treatment can get you out of that constipated state other than colon hydrotherapy. And I just think that constipation has been normalized by society and the medical profession, and it's just not normal to be constipated for any length of time.
Totally agree. And Gillian mentioned a company called Coloplast earlier on with the Peristine. I think they did a study in 2015. And forgive me, I'm not actually sure which way around it is, but it's a lot of money. And it was something like 276 or 267 million pounds spent on constipation in the year 2015. That's 1 year. That's people being admitted to hospital with constipation as a main complaint.
Yes,
and
yeah.
For prescription drugs, that's not even taking into account the stuff that we're buying over the counter, the Dulcolax and the Senocot and everything else. I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of money.
And I wonder if that's just adults as well, Catherine, because we know that constipation in children is on the increase.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, we've all seen our clients who've come in and said that they've been to the doctor and said they're having a poo once a week, and the doctor's saying that's okay, that's part of a natural rhythm. It just makes me go, oh, it's not.
No, it's not.
It just isn't. There is nothing. I always use this example. If you stick up a banana up a car's exhaust pipe, it stalls.
Yes.
And
the engine's going to blow up eventually.
Well, it'll stop. It won't function, and our bodies will continue to function because they're masters of adaptation. But there's a point at which it can't adapt anymore if it can't release itself of its waste.
Yes, yeah.
One of the things.
Sorry, Jill, go on.
I was just going to say, one of the things while I think about it is the problems. One of the problems is people go to the doctors, quite reasonably. I'm constipated, and the doctor says, "Try this. This is a laxative." And actually, if they could say, well, let's look at why you're constipated and see if we can treat that, that would be really helpful, because a lot of it, we're trying to get, as colon hydrotherapists, we want you to have a good functioning bowel doing its job properly. But until you know what's wrong with it and why it's not working, how can you possibly get it to work properly? And that's where the doctors really, sadly, sometimes don't get it.
One of the things I wanted to say, is that colon hydrotherapists are not just very, very skilled at emptying your bowel and reducing the symptoms of IBS and bloating, constipation. They will also give you dietary and lifestyle advice. They've been trained to do this. And when you've had your first colonic treatment, they will also advise you when you may need your next one. So, they will give you feedback on what went down the tubing. Many colon hydrotherapists during the treatment will also be massaging your belly, your colon, to help push all the solid wastes along. And then when you come out of the toilet after the treatment, when you're dressed, they'll sit you down and they'll explain what they saw, their findings, and they will advise diet, lifestyle, maybe supplements, and probably book you in for a follow-up treatment maybe a month later. And I had many, many clients who used to come to me every 3 months or twice a year or just once a year, or whenever they felt as though they needed a colonic. And I'm sure it's the same for you girls as well.
Yep,
absolutely.
Karen. Hi, Karen. Thanks for joining us. I hope you're well. If GP spent 2 minutes explaining how your colon functions, it would help.
Very true.
Yes, well, they don't, do they? And I think that children should be taught in school how their bodies function. It would certainly help. Right, let's see if we've got any more questions. Dysbiosis, would it help with this? Well, yes, absolutely. For those of you that don't know what dysbiosis is, it's just a term that's used for an imbalance in the gut's microbiome, so in the bacteria. So you may have more of the pathogenic strains of bacteria than the beneficial strains. But dysbiosis, it's a bit of a vague word, isn't it, really? It might mean that you're a bit gassy, that you're a bit bloated. But absolutely, a colonic, 1 or 2 colonics would certainly, if you're suffering with gas and bloating, because to me dysbiosis, it's just a name, doesn't mean anything to me. I'm interested in symptoms, not names, not labels. I want to know, are you getting bloated? Are you getting stomach cramps? Are you constipated? That's what I'm interested in. Facebook user, we don't know your name, sorry, and I'm sure you girls will agree.
Yeah, I mean, it is a generic term, isn't it, for just imbalance of bacteria? But SIBO is, isn't it, like all Oh gosh, I can't remember which way around it is now. It's like SIBO is a dysbiosis, but not all dysbiosis is SIBO. So that's SIBO. Sorry, that's a term for small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So that again, the colonic can be really, really beneficial, can't it? For that as a treatment.
Well, SIBO,
that, alongside other things.
Yeah, sorry, Katherine. There's a test for SIBO. People need to be tested to see if they're positive for SIBO. And yes, colon hydrotherapy, without a doubt, needs to be part of the treatment protocol for SIBO, especially in trying to get that cecum, the first part of the large bowel, emptied, so that whatever is backing up in the small intestine, because that's where the SIBO is, in the small intestine, can release and start moving through. So it's so important that colon hydrotherapy forms part of any SIBO protocol. Of any constipation protocol, of any IBS protocol. If the person's going to see a naturopath, a nutritional therapist, a medical herbalist, in my opinion, colon hydrotherapy needs to be part of that protocol to get the best result for that client. Sorry, it's a bit of a rant there.
Getting very passionate there, darling.
I know. You know me. You know me. I'm just checking on the time. 20. Oh, right. Okay. So just let me check some. I don't know if any you girls have got anything else to add. I'm just going to see if there's any more questions here.
Well, I think it's sorry, Linda.
It's all right. Annabelle Hill, where are you based? I suffer with terrible trapped wind, IBS, and constipation. Annabelle, if you certainly need colon hydrotherapy with those symptoms. If you drop me an email, Annabelle, linda@justfortummies.co.uk, or send us a message on Messenger, I will signpost you to someone that can help. When it comes to colon hydrotherapy, looking for a therapist, try and find someone who has been recommended, someone who's had the treatment with a certain therapist, and they can recommend that therapist. There are some associations, and on their websites you will find a list of their registered members. So do a little bit of research, but email me and I will help signpost you to someone. Nunya from the US. I'm sorry, Nunya. No, the competition is only for people who live in the UK. Right. So I think have I covered everything, girls? We've covered a little bit of the history, how the digestive system works. Well, the long continuous tube, equipment, procedure, conditions that colon hydrotherapy can help with, contraindications. Have I missed anything? Water temp.
The thing I'd say is just the fact that people can be really put off it because they think it's going to be embarrassing. And I mean, it's a vulnerable thing to have done, isn't it? It's a vulnerable way to be in front of another human being. But we're all trained to deal with that. We make it a really safe place for people, and you'll be made to feel safe throughout the whole thing. So I don't let that be a reason for you not seeking help and support.
And we've all had colon hydrotherapy, haven't we? We all, most of us came into the profession having had colon hydrotherapy, and it benefiting us, which is why we decided to train in colon hydrotherapy.
You've just taken the words out of my mouth, Linda. I was just about to say that. Lots of people who are colon hydrotherapists have become therapists because of the experience that they had having one. I can say the same. I only went because my friend was going. And I came out, I got home, I slept for 14 hours. I woke up the next day and I felt absolutely fantastic. And I actually thought I was well the day before. And I literally phoned my friend and said, let's go and learn to do that. And that's what we did.
Similar experience. I mean, hi, Debbie. Thanks for joining us. Debbie Dean is a fantastic colon hydrotherapist. And I can't remember where you are, Debbie. Are you in Berkshire? She's down south somewhere. Yeah. So Debbie, my client yesterday passed some fabulous parasites this morning after a coffee enema. Wow, Debbie, I've been meaning to contact you because I'd like to do a live with you about your juice cleansing. Is it the Yummy Juice Company? And I'd really like more of my Just for Tummies community to know more about the benefits of juice cleansing. So I'm going to contact you, Debbie, so watch out. Right, Jill, Catherine, thank you so much for joining me. It's lovely to see you both. And Jill, we have such special memories together of when we were on the colonic committee, don't we? We had some good laughs. And I still giggle about them now.
Yes, me too.
Catherine, good luck with the sale of your book.
Thank you.
I sent it out in an email recently, the title of it. Tell us the title, Catherine, remind us.
It's called Let That Go, 31 Things to Do If You Want a Better Poo.
Yes, yeah, and it's a fantastic book. I've got it.
Thank you.
It is. I've read it.
There it is.
It's fantastic.
I bet you've read it on Kindle, haven't you, Jill?
No, I've read it in both. I've read it in both forms. Yes, I've got a little bookcase with books that mean something to me, and that one's in there.
Oh, thank you.
Lovely. So thank you, girls, and it's been great to have you both on again. You know, talking about all things bowel and colonic related.
Well, thank you,
everyone.
Linda.
Thank you to everyone for joining us. We hope you found this useful. Please send your questions. There's quite a few questions. I'll get through all of them eventually over the next few days. And don't forget to enter the giveaway competition on the Just For Tummies Facebook page. So have a great evening, everyone, and watch out for our next live.
Wow.
Okay, girls.
Bye.
Thank you. Lovely to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you now. Bye-bye. Bye.